Welcome back to English for grade 11. So far we talked about the vocabulary and we talked about the unit as a whole, the content of the unit. Today we're going to tackle more vocabulary items plus the grammar and followed by a language function. So let's take a look at the new list of the vocabulary items. First, acquainted with, bias, cautious, collision, considerably, confidential, daydream, decelerate, deviate, foolproof, and safeguard. Now, as we all know by now, we're going to look at the picture and see the corresponding word to it. So, first one. What do you think? What this photo represents? What do you think? It's acquainted with. It's an adjective. It means knowing about something and being familiar with it because one has seen it, read it, or used it. For example, I introduced them to each other and they become acquainted with one another. I introduced them to each other and they become acquainted with one another. Alright? Next, let's take a look at the picture. We see two people, fact and belief. What do you think? It's bias. It's a noun. It means imbalance, an equal distribution of force. For example, there was evidence of bias against suspect. So there was evidence of bias against suspect. Now let's move to the third picture. What is this photo corresponds? What do you think? It's cautious. It means attentive to potential problems or dangers. That's cautious, an adjective. For example, you have to wear your safety equipment. It is good to be safe and cautious. You have to wear your safety equipment. It is good to be safe and cautious. Next, two cars together. We also talked about a similar word to it in the previous episode. So, it's collision. It's a noun. It means a crash of an object into something. For example, the collision of the cars was so strong that I could hear it from my room. The collision of the cars were so strong that I could hear it from my room. Next, this picture. What do you think? A lot. You have the hint over there. It means considerably. It's an adverb. It means significantly or greatly. For example, the team has improved considerably in the past few years. So it has improved in great way or sufficient way. All right? Next, top secret. So what does it mean? It means confidential. It's an adjective intended to be kept secret. That's the meaning of the word. For example, you have to keep this confidential. It has to stay between you and I, or you and me. You have to keep this confidential. It has to stay between you and me, between us. Next, a man and rockets. What do you think he is doing? It's a daydream, correct. It means to indulge in a series of pleasant thoughts that distracts one's attention from the present. So, for example, you should concentrate more in class and not daydream about traveling. So pay attention to class and don't daydream to somewhere else. Okay? Next, slow down. So what's the word that means slow down? It means decelerate. It's a verb. It means of a vehicle, machine, or process to reduce speed or to slow down. For example, people who are going 120 km per hour should decelerate to 100 km per hour. So they should slow down. Next, an arrow. It's not a straight arrow, it's going to the right. It's deviated or deviate. It's a verb. It means to depart from an established course. For example, you must not deviate from the right path. So you have to follow the right path. Don't deviate. Don't go another way. All right? Next, you have two arrows, a dangerous and safe. What do you think? That's it. It's foolproof. It's an adjective. It means incapable of going wrong or being misused. It means incapable of going wrong or being misused. For example, nothing can go wrong with this plan. It's foolproof. Okay? Clear? Next. What do you see in this picture? So, it's safeguard. It's a verb. It means to protect against something. For example, a seatbelt safeguards people in the event of an accident. A seatbelt safeguards people in the event of an accident. So, let's take a look at the multiple choice questions. Choose the correct answer from A, B, C, or D. Number 1, the thief thought his plan was blank, but the police caught him out. So he thought that his plan was amazing, can't go wrong in any way. So his plan was foolproof. Okay. Next, question number 2. The heat increased blank after the air conditioner broke down. So it's A, amicably, B, wholeheartedly, C, basically, D, considerably. So it went greatly, another way. So the heat increased considerably after the air conditioner broke down. We can look at the exercise number 3 or the third question. You shouldn't blank while driving. You should pay attention. So what do you think? A, detect, B, decelerate, C, daydream, D, bring up. What do you think? So you shouldn't daydream while driving. You should pay attention to the road. Okay? Now let's take a look at another exercise, which is fill in the blanks with the suitable word. We have acquainted with, safeguard, cautious, confidential, deviate, and foolproof. First question, a Muslim should not blank from the path of the righteousness. A Muslim should not blank from the path of righteousness. What do you think? It's deviate. A Muslim should not deviate. Alright, next, question number 2. Ahmed met Faisal yesterday. They are now blank each other. So they are now blank with each other. Ahmed met Faisal yesterday. They are now acquainted with each other. They know each other now. Okay? Next, question number 3. A seatbelt can blank drivers. It protects them during accidents. Can be used what? As a safeguard. A seatbelt can safeguard drivers. It protects them from or during accidents. Alright? Now, let's take a look at the grammar. First point, should and shouldn't plus the base verb. We use the modal verb should when giving advice or recommendations. So, when we advise people or we recommend something to people, we use should. The rule is should or shouldn't plus the base form. For example, we should wear our seatbelts. Or, you shouldn't use your mobile phone while driving. That's an advice. Or maybe another example, he should visit the doctor if he is sick. Alright? The final example, I shouldn't listen to negative remarks. I should only listen to the positive ones. I shouldn't listen to negative remarks. The second rule is should and or shouldn't plus have plus verb in the past participle. We use shouldn't have plus verb past participle to criticize someone or showing remorse. We use it for criticizing someone or showing remorse. For example, you should have worn your seatbelt. I'm criticizing you in this case. They shouldn't have left the door open. This is also a criticism. You should have studied harder. Okay? He shouldn't have spoken to his mother that way. He shouldn't have spoken to his mother that way. If you can pay attention to the rule here. It says should and or shouldn't plus have plus the verb in the past participle form. Okay? And again, this is worn, left, studied, spoken. Those are the form in the past participle. Okay? Now, in your workbook, page 72, exercise number 6. Give advice using should have or shouldn't have and the words and phrases in the brackets. First exercise. My brother was hurt in a car accident. Between brackets, ride his bike on the road. So, how can we advise him? How can we use should to advise his brother? What do you think? Remember to follow the rule. Should plus the verb base form or should have plus past participle. So, your brother shouldn't have ridden his bike on the road. Okay? Your brother shouldn't have ridden his bike on the road. Next, B. The bus fell in a hole in the middle of the street. Between brackets, pay attention to the road signs. How can we criticize this or advise this bus driver? The driver should have paid attention to the road signs. So the driver should have paid attention to the road signs. Now you can do the rest by yourself. In your workbook, page 73, exercise number 6. Now, we have another rule, which is the suffixes. A suffix is made of one or two letters that are attached at the end, to the end of the word, to change its part of speech, which is the grammar, and or its meaning. Let's take create here as an example. So create is a verb. If we can change the suffix, which is the last part of the word itself, we can add, for example, shin, creation, becomes a noun, or maybe a creator, that's also another noun. But we change the suffix and also change the part of speech and the meaning. Okay, let's take another example from create as well. We can be creative. Creative, we added the iv at the end, IVE. We added IVE to make it as an adjective. It becomes creative. So from the word create, we had two or more words. Creation and creative. A noun, a verb, and an adjective. So suffixes change the part of speech of the words and also the meaning. Now let's take a closer look at suffixes. So we have different types of suffixes. We have AL, ER, ISE, MENT, ANC, ION, Y, ITY, OUS, ATE, EN, IST, HOOD, and FUL. For example, government with AL added at the end of the word, it becomes governmental. Engine with ER at the end of the word, when we add the suffix ER, it becomes an engineer. Hospital, when we add ISE at the end, it becomes hospitalize. Alright? Manage, it becomes management. Allow, allowance. Regulate, regulation. Tooth, toothy. Reliable, reliability. Venom, venomous. Valid, validate. Light, lighten. Physics, physicist. False, falsehood. And finally, watch, watchful. So these suffixes are added at the end of the word and changes part of speech and also the meaning. Now, take a look at the workbook, page 72, exercise number 1. We want to add the correct ending to the unfinished words in sentences from A to I. Use the endings from the list below. So we have meant, IST, hood, and ER for nouns, and AL, Y, OUS, and full for adjectives. Alright? From your book, page 72, pay attention, we'll do this one together. A, slow down, it's danger to drive too fast in a residential neighbor like this. So we have two blanks in one sentence. We want to use the suffixes in the box above to put them in the sentences here. So slow down, it's dangerous to drive fast in a residential neighborhood. like this. So we added 2 suffixes to change the meaning and the part of speech of the word. Let's look at the second one. Pedestrians should be care when they cross the road. Some motor something drive too fast. So pedestrians should be careful when they cross the road. Some motorists drive too fast. All right? You can do the rest by yourself. It's easy. Now, let's take a look at the language functions. When answering a language function questions, you must consider the following. Again, you should always write what you say in the following situation, not what you do. Okay? Put yourself in the context, put yourself in the exact situation. Imagine that you are in that exact situation. What would you say if you were asked to answer that question? Write your answer in a full grammatical sentence. Don't write 2 words or just give us a brief information about it. Just like elaborate, explain, and show us that you know and understand and you want to give us a full meaning of the sentence, okay? Now, let's take a look at the first question. Your friend asks for your advice on which dish he or she should try at the restaurant. So, he wants your advice. What would you recommend for him? What would you say to him? Or what would you say to her? Okay? What do you think? Any answer, any reasonable answer is accepted, as long as it's logical too. Okay? A logical, reasonable answer is accepted here. So, what do you think? Maybe I don't like what you like, right? Especially when it comes to food. Maybe I like pizzas. You like burgers or whatever. Okay? So what would you say in that situation? Okay? For example here, you should try the sushi. It's the best in town. Maybe you don't like sushi. Maybe you can go like pizza. All right? You understand the concept here? Any logical, reasonable answer is accepted. So let's take a look at this example here. Your brother didn't study well for the exam and failed. Look at the answers here. You should have studied for your exam and or you should have learned from your mistakes for the next one. This is the full grammatical sentence. As you can see here, we have 2 answers. Maybe you can write only one according to your way of responding to your brother. Okay? But if you pay attention closely to the sentences here, you should see that those sentences represent this episode's grammatical lessons. So we learned today the should plus have plus past participle, and we used the should plus the verb in the base form. So we used the grammatical rules of this episode in order to answer the language function questions. This is why we always tell you to put your answers in full grammatical sentence. That will help to get a better grade and a better mark. Okay? So you always should write your sentences in full grammatical sentence. You can use the grammatical rules of previous lessons to write your own answers. Clear? I hope so. To summarize, in this episode we looked at new vocabulary items. We also talked about the grammar, the should and shouldn't have, plus the suffixes. At the end we discussed some language functions questions. Thank you for watching. Until next time.